Before time began, before the sun and moon traced their paths across the sky, there was only endless nothingness, a gaping void, called Ginnungagap. Imagine a silence so deep it swallows sound, a darkness so vast it swallows light. This is where our story begins, in the emptiness that birthed everything. From this primordial abyss, the 9 realms of Norse mythology would rise worlds of gods, giants, and mortals, all woven together by destiny and the roots of the great world tree. These realms are not just places but the very fabric of a cosmos teeming with magic, chaos, and the echoes of creation. By the end of this journey, you'll walk among the golden halls of Asgard, stand in the shadow of frost giants, and uncover how a universe was carved from the bones of a primordial being. This is the Norse creation myth where fire and ice collide, where gods shape the world with blood and breath, and where every legend begins with a single, impossible question: how does something come from nothing? Stay with me, and we'll unravel the mysteries of the 9 realms together. Now, stepping deeper into the abyss, let's explore Ginnungagap, the primordial void that cradled the seeds of creation. Picture an endless expanse, neither hot nor cold, light nor dark. It was a space so vast and empty that it defied the very idea of existence. Unlike the chaotic whirlpools of Greek mythology's chaos or the watery abyss of Mesopotamian myths, Ginnungagap was a silent, patient nothingness, waiting for the spark that would set the cosmos in motion. What makes Ginnungagap so fascinating is its duality. It wasn't just empty, it was a meeting point. To its north lay the frozen wastes of Niflheim, a realm of biting cold and mist. To its south, the fiery surges of Muspelheim, where flames licked at the edges of reality. Over time, the heat and the cold clashed within Ginnungagap, and from that collision, the first traces of life emerged. Drops of melting ice from Niflheim mingled with the embers of Muspelheim, forming a primordial ooze, and from that ooze came Ymir, the first of the giants, and Audhumla, the cosmic cow whose milk nourished him. This origin story sets Norse mythology apart. In many traditions, creation is an act of divine speech or thought, a god simply willing the world into being. But in Norse belief, the universe was born from struggle, from the raw forces of fire and ice wrestling in the void. There's no benevolent creator here, only the natural, almost accidental, emergence of life from opposing powers. It's a story of balance, where chaos and order aren't enemies but partners in creation. Ginnungagap's legacy doesn't end with Ymir's birth. It remains a symbol of potential, the idea that even in emptiness, there's the promise of something more. Later, when Odin and his brothers slay Ymir, they'll use his body to sculpt the world, but the void's essence lingers. The great world tree, Yggdrasil, stretches its roots into Ginnungagap, anchoring the realms to the emptiness that birthed them. Even the gods, for all their power, can't escape their origins in that boundless void. When we compare this to other myths, the differences are striking. The Bible's Genesis begins with light parting from darkness, while Hindu texts describe the cosmic egg Hiranyagarbha, a floating in infinite waters, but Ginnungagap offers no such clarity. It's a reminder that the Norse cosmos isn't built on divine decree, but on raw, elemental forces, fire and ice clashing, giving way to life, and setting the stage for everything that follows. So the next time you think of nothingness, remember Ginnungagap. It wasn't just an absence, it was the canvas for a universe, and as we'll soon see, that canvas was just beginning to take shape. Now, from the swirling chaos of Ginnungagap's fire and ice, let's turn our attention to the very first beings to emerge, Ymir and Audhumla. These primordial figures aren't just characters in a myth, they're the foundation of the Norse cosmos, the raw materials from which everything else would spring. Ymir, the first of the frost giants, was no ordinary creature. Born from the melting ice of Niflheim, mingling with Muspelheim's fiery sparks, he was a being of pure contradiction, both chaos and potential. Imagine a towering figure, his body constantly growing, his flesh spawning new giants with every drop of sweat. He wasn't just alive, he was life itself, a self-sustaining force of nature. Yet for all his power, Ymir depended on another being for survival, Audhumla, the cosmic cow. Audhumla's role in this myth is as fascinating as it is vital. While Ymir was the progenitor of the giants, Audhumla was the nurturer, the sustainer. She licked the salty ice blocks of Niflheim, and from her udders flowed rivers of milk that fed Ymir. But her significance goes even deeper. As she licked the ice, she uncovered something extraordinary. Beri, the first of the gods. Layer by layer, Audhumla freed him from the frozen void, a slow, deliberate act of creation that contrasts sharply with Ymir's chaotic origins. Think about the symbolism here. Ymir emerges from violent collision, while Beri is revealed through patient, almost tender effort. It's a duality that defines Norse mythology. Creation isn't just about force, but also about care and discovery. Audhumla bridges these two worlds. She's neither fully of the giants nor the gods, yet without her, neither lineage could exist. Now, let's consider Ymir's fate, because it's key to understanding the Norse worldview. Unlike other mythologies where the first being might rule eternally, Ymir's story is one of sacrifice. His body would later become the earth, his blood the seas, his bones the mountains. But here, at the dawn of time, he's simply a force of existence, feeding on Audhumla's milk while his offspring multiply around him. The giants, born from his flesh, represent untamed nature, wild, unpredictable, and often in conflict with the order the gods would later impose. Meanwhile, Beri's emergence marks the beginning of something new. He's the ancestor of Odin, Vili, and Ve, the gods who will reshape the cosmos. But notice how he's found, not born. There's a sense of destiny in this, as if the gods were always meant to rise from the ice, a hidden order waiting to be uncovered. This interplay between Ymir and Audhumla sets the stage for everything that follows. Ymir's chaotic energy and Audhumla's nurturing presence create a balance, a push and pull that mirrors the Norse understanding of the universe. It's not just a story of creation, it's a lesson in how opposites fire and ice, chaos and order, giants and gods rely on each other to shape the world. So as we move forward, remember this: the Norse cosmos wasn't built by a single hand. It was forged in the tension between beings like Ymir and Audhumla, between destruction and sustenance. And from that tension, the 9 realms would soon take form. With Audhumla's patient efforts revealing Beri from the ice, we witness the first spark of divinity entering the Norse cosmos. This moment marks a turning point where the raw forces of fire and ice give way to something more deliberate, more purposeful. Beri, the first god, emerges fully formed from the frozen void, a being of wisdom and strength. Unlike Ymir, who spawned countless giants through chaotic means, Beri stands alone at first, a solitary figure representing the potential for order. He would become the ancestor of all the Aesir gods, but his story doesn't end with himself. Beri fathers Bor, a god who inherits his father's quiet power while also embodying a new ambition, the drive to shape the world rather than simply exist within it. Bor's union with Bisla, a giantess from Ymir's lineage, is where the story takes a fascinating turn. Here, the two great bloodlines of Norse mythology, the gods and the giants intertwine. Bisla, daughter of the frost giant Bolthorn, brings a touch of that primal chaos into the divine family, a reminder that even the gods have roots in the wild forces of creation. This marriage isn't just a partnership, it's a merging of opposites, setting the stage for the gods who would one day remake the cosmos. From this union, 3 sons are born: Odin, Vili, and Ve. These brothers are no ordinary deities, they're the architects of the 9 realms, the ones who will take the raw materials of Ymir's body and forge them into something structured and meaningful. Odin, the eldest, is destined to become the All-Father, the wise and cunning ruler of Asgard. His brothers, though less celebrated in later myths, play equally crucial roles in the early days of creation. Together, they represent intelligence, will, and sacred power qualities that define the Aesir and set them apart from the unbridled chaos of the giants. What's striking about this lineage is how it embodies balance. Beri emerges from ice, yet his descendants wield fire, both literal and metaphorical. Bor marries a giantess, blending order with chaos, and the 3 brothers Odin, Vili, and Ve inherit traits from both sides, making them uniquely suited to reshape the universe. They're not just destroyers or preservers, they're rearrangers, taking what exists and giving it new purpose. This divine lineage also hints at a recurring theme in Norse mythology: conflict as a creative force. The gods don't reject their giant heritage, they harness it. Odin's thirst for wisdom, for instance, later drives him to seek knowledge even from the giants, showing that the line between friend and foe is often blurred. The tension between these bloodlines isn't just a source of strife, it's what makes the Norse cosmos dynamic, ever-evolving. As we follow this family tree, we see the blueprint for everything that follows. Beri's emergence sets divinity in motion. Bor's marriage to Bisla bridges 2 worlds, and Odin's birth signals the dawn of a new age, one where the gods will step forward to impose their vision on the universe. Their story is just beginning, but already, the pieces are in place for the most dramatic act of all, the slaying of Ymir and the birth of the 9 realms. Now, the stage is set for a turning point in Norse mythology, one that reshapes chaos into order with a single, brutal act. Odin, Vili, and Ve, the 3 brothers born from the union of gods and giants, step forward to confront Ymir, the primal giant whose very existence embodies the unchecked forces of creation. This isn't just a battle, it's a cosmic necessity. Ymir's endless spawning of frost giants threatens to drown the world in chaos. The brothers, armed with divine will and a vision for something greater, make a calculated decision. They slay Ymir, and in doing so, unleash a flood of unimaginable proportions. His blood gushes forth like a torrent, drowning nearly all of his giant offspring. Only a handful survive, fleeing to the edges of the New World, where they will later become the ancestors of the frost giants who oppose the gods. But death here isn't an end, it's a transformation. The brothers take Ymir's colossal body and fashion the world from its parts. His flesh becomes the rich soil of Midgard, the realm of humans. His blood pools into vast oceans and winding rivers, carving the landscape with liquid veins. His bones rise as towering mountains, jagged and unyielding, while his teeth and fragments of bone scatter to form stones and cliffs. Even his skull finds purpose. The brothers hoist it high above the earth, creating the dome of the sky, held up by 4 dwarves named North, South, East, and West. The poetic symmetry is striking. Ymir, born from elemental chaos, becomes the very foundation of order. His eyebrows form a protective barrier around Midgard, shielding humanity from the outer realms. Meanwhile, sparks from Muspelheim, the fiery realm, are caught and placed in the sky, becoming the sun, moon, and stars' lights to guide the new world. This act of creation isn't just practical, it's symbolic. The gods don't erase chaos, they repurpose it. The giants' blood still flows in rivers, their bones still shape the land, and their legacy lingers in storms and earthquakes. Even the surviving giants remain, ensuring that chaos never fully disappears. This tension between order and destruction, gods and giants, becomes the heartbeat of Norse mythology, driving conflicts, alliances, and the eventual prophecy of Ragnarok. What's remarkable is how the brothers work as one. Odin, the strategist, directs the reshaping of the cosmos. Vili imbues the world with thought and motion, while Ve breathes life into its structure. Together, they don't just kill a giant, they unlock the potential of his body, turning raw materials into a living, breathing universe. Yet, the act is not without consequence. The slaughter of Ymir stains the gods' hands, setting a precedent for violence that echoes through their sagas. Even in creation, there is bloodshed, a reminder that the Norse cosmos is not built on purity, but on struggle, sacrifice, and the relentless cycle of destruction and renewal. As the brothers step back to survey their work, the 9 realms begin to take shape, but this is only the beginning. With the world now formed, the gods turn their attention to its inhabitants, starting with the first humans, crafted not from chaos, but from the quiet, patient earth. With the raw materials of Ymir's body now shaping the world, the gods turn their attention to something far more deliberate: Midgard, the realm of humans. Unlike the wild, untamed lands beyond, Midgard is crafted with purpose, a sanctuary amid the chaos. The brothers take Ymir's eyebrows and curve them into a vast, protective barrier, encircling this new realm like a fortress wall. It's a striking image, the very edges of the primal giant's face becoming the boundary between safety and the unknown. Midgard isn't just a random plot of land. In Norse cosmology, it holds a sacred position at the center of Yggdrasil, the world tree, connected to all other realms yet distinct in its vulnerability. The gods design it as a middle ground, a place where humans can thrive, sheltered but never entirely cut off from the wonders and dangers of the wider cosmos. Those towering walls of eyebrows, they're both literal and symbolic, reminder that humanity is precious enough to protect, yet never far from the giants, gods, and spirits who wander the other realms. Think of Midgard as the heart of Norse mythology's universe. Just as a heart pumps lifeblood to the body, Midgard connects the divine, the natural, and the supernatural. The gods visit, giants scheme against it, and destiny itself is woven here through the actions of mortals. Even its name reflects this centrality. Midgard literally means middle enclosure, a world suspended between the divine order of Asgard and the primal chaos of Jotunheim. But why eyebrows? In Norse thought, the eyebrows frame the face, the seat of identity and expression. By using them, the gods signal that humanity isn't just an afterthought, it's central to the story they're shaping. Those arched barriers also suggest vigilance. Eyebrows knit in concentration, furrow in concern. They're a fitting metaphor for a realm that must always be guarded, a place where the gods' watchfulness is etched into the landscape itself. The imagery of Midgard as a fortress runs deep. Unlike the open wilds of Jotunheim or the celestial spires of Asgard, it's designed with defense in mind. The gods know the threats that lurk beyond: frost giants, chaotic forces, even the eventual doom of Ragnarok, and so they build not just a home, but a stronghold. Yet Midgard's walls aren't impenetrable. The rainbow bridge Bifrost stretches from Asgard to its borders, and hidden paths connect it to Niflheim, Svartalfheim, and beyond. The message is clear: humanity is protected, but never isolated. This duality is key to understanding Midgard's role. It's a realm of balance where everyday life unfolds under the watch of the gods, yet where humans wield their own agency. The Norse didn't see their world as a passive stage, but as an active participant in the cosmic drama. Every storm might be a giant's fury, every harvest a gift from the Vanir, and every battle an echo of the gods' own struggles. And so, as the brothers step back, their work takes on its final form. Midgard rises, cradled in the center of the 9 realms, its destiny intertwined with all who dwell within and beyond its walls. Yet even as the gods admire their creation, another task awaits, breathing life into the first humans, the ones who will walk this world and shape its stories. But that, as they say, is a tale for another moment. Now, standing at the shores of Midgard, the gods gaze upon their newly crafted realm, a world waiting to be filled. But a fortress without inhabitants is just empty land. So Odin, Vili, and Ve walk along the beach, their eyes scanning the driftwood scattered by the tides. These aren't mere scraps of wood, they're the raw materials for humanity itself. The brothers kneel in the sand, selecting 2 pieces with care, one ash, one elm. With deliberate hands, they carve the wood into shapes resembling their own. But these figures are lifeless, hollow, so Odin leans close, breathing into them the very essence of life, what the Norse called earned, the spark of spirit. Vili grants them author, reason, and passion, while Ve bestows law and litter, warmth and color. Suddenly, the wood trembles, then stirs. The first humans, Ask and Embla, stand blinking under the wide sky. Their names hold hidden meaning. Ask means ash tree, tying humanity to Yggdrasil, the world tree whose roots and branches bind the cosmos. Embla likely derives from elm, a tree associated with strength and resilience. Together, they embody the duality of Norse existence, rooted in nature yet touched by divinity. Unlike the gods or giants, humans aren't born of chaos or lineage. They're crafted, chosen, gifted. This moment reshapes the 9 realms. Before, Midgard was architecture. Now, it pulses with purpose. Ask and Embla aren't just inhabitants. They're the beginning of a story. Every human king, farmer, or explorer will trace their lineage back to this pair of driftwood figures brought to life. The gods don't create servants or playthings. They forge equals in potential. Humans may lack the immortality of the Aesir or the raw power of giants, but they possess something rarer, the freedom to shape their own fate. Notice what the brothers don't give them: protection. Unlike the walls of Midgard, humans have no innate armor against frost or flame. No claws like the wolves of Fenrir's brood, no magic like the Vanir. Their strength lies in what the gods did pour into them: curiosity, adaptability, the drive to build and explore. The Norse saw humanity's vulnerability as its defining trait. A giant can topple mountains, but a human will move them, piece by piece, through sheer will. The tale echoes other creation myths, yet with a distinct Norse edge. In Greek mythology, Prometheus molds humans from clay. Here, driftwood carries the memory of the sea, a nod to the ever-present influence of nature. Even the act of breathing life mirrors the way wind shapes dunes or sails, gradual, persistent, inevitable. And just as Ymir's body became the world, Ask and Embla's descendants will fill it, their lives weaving into the fabric of the 9 realms. But there's a quiet tragedy here, too. The gods gift humans with everything except eternity. Unlike the elves or dwarves, humanity's time is fleeting, a theme that threads through Norse sagas. Mortality isn't a flaw, it's the price of vitality. A candle burns brightest just before it gutters out. This bittersweet truth colors the Norse worldview. To live fully is to accept that even the mightiest kingdoms will one day crumble. Yet Ask and Embla's legacy isn't just about endings. Their creation sets the stage for the greatest dramas of the Norse cosmos. When Ragnarok dawns, it won't be gods alone who fight humanity's choices will ripple through fate. The walls of Midgard may shield them, but it's their hearts that will echo in the halls of the gods. As the first couple steps forward onto the uncharted earth, the wind carries the salt of distant realms. Somewhere, the Norns begin to weave. The threads of their lives, short, vibrant, and utterly human, are now part of the tapestry. And high in Asgard, Odin watches, his single eye alight with something like hope. Now, as the first humans take their steps into the world, let's turn our gaze upward, to the colossal pillar that binds all existence together. Yggdrasil, the world tree, isn't just a symbol in Norse mythology, it's the very framework of reality. Imagine a tree so vast its roots plunge into the underworld, its trunk pierces the mortal realm, and its branches stretch beyond the heavens, cradling the cosmos in their embrace. This isn't mere imagination to the Vikings, it's the architecture of their universe. The name Yggdrasil itself whispers of its significance. Ygg means terrible, a nod to Odin's many names, one of which is Ygg, the terrible one, while Drasil translates to steed. Together, they hint at the tree's role as Odin's sacrificial gallows, a place where he once hung for 9 nights to gain wisdom. But Yggdrasil is far more than a silent witness to Odin's ordeal. Its roots anchor the 9 realms, each burrowing into a different world, one in mist-shrouded Niflheim, another in fiery Muspelheim, and the third reaching Asgard itself, where the gods hold court. To grasp Yggdrasil's scale, picture this: an eagle perches at its highest branch, so distant that its wings blot out the sky, while far below, the dragon Nidhogg gnaws endlessly at its roots. Between them, the squirrel Ratatosk darts up and down the trunk, ferrying insults between the eagle and the dragon, mischievous middleman in an ancient feud. This isn't just a tree, it's a bustling ecosystem of mythic creatures. Even its leaves rustle with destiny. The dew that collects on them isn't water but the sacred mead of poetry, dripping into the well of wisdom at its base. The tree's resilience is as legendary as its size. Despite Nidhogg's constant gnawing, the rot of decay, and the weight of the realms, Yggdrasil endures. The Norns, those weavers of fate, water its roots daily from the well of Erd, ensuring its survival. This isn't just maintenance, it's a cosmic balancing act. If Yggdrasil falters, so too do the realms it sustains. Yggdrasil's role as the axis mundi, the center of the Norse cosmos, can't be overstated. It's not merely a connection between realms, it's the conduit for all movement and magic. When Odin seeks counsel from the dead, he rides down its trunk to Helheim. When the rainbow bridge Bifrost shatters at Ragnarok, the gods will ascend its branches to face their doom. Even the winds that shape Midgard's seas are said to stir first in Yggdrasil's lofty boughs. But here's the profound irony: for all its divinity, Yggdrasil suffers. Its bark peels, its leaves wither, and its roots fester. The Norse didn't envision an indestructible universe. They saw one that thrives despite its wounds. Yggdrasil's struggles mirror human existence, glorious yet fragile, eternal yet scarred. Its endurance isn't passive, it's a daily defiance of chaos. And so, as Ask and Embla's descendants multiply, Yggdrasil stands above them all, a silent guardian and a silent sufferer. Its branches don't just hold the stars, they cradle the weight of choices, of wars, of whispered prayers. Every saga, every voyage, every birth and death unfolds beneath its canopy. If the 9 realms are a tapestry, Yggdrasil is both the loom and the thread. Yet for all its grandeur, the world tree has a quiet intimacy, too. When a Viking carves runes into wood or kindles a hearth fire, they're echoing Yggdrasil's essence, the ordinary made sacred. This isn't a distant symbol, it's the spine of their world, felt in every oak that shades a homestead, every ship's mast that braves the waves. Look closer, and you'll notice something extraordinary. Yggdrasil doesn't just connect realms, it blurs their boundaries. Its roots drink from the well of fate. Its trunk hosts the politics of squirrels and serpents. Its branches shelter gods and giants alike. In its veins flow the contradictions of Norse thought, order and chaos, decay and renewal, the mundane and the divine. The tree doesn't judge, it simply is. As we follow its roots deeper, we'll discover how one of these hidden realms, Asgard, the glittering seat of the gods, takes shape amid the branches. But for now, let the magnitude of Yggdrasil sink in. This isn't just a myth. To the Norse, it was the answer to a question we still ask today: what holds everything together? Now, let's ascend from the sprawling roots of Yggdrasil and step into the shimmering realm that crowns its highest branches, Asgard, the celestial stronghold of the Aesir gods. Picture a land where the air hums with power, where golden halls gleam like captured sunlight, and where the mightiest of Norse deities convene to shape the fate of the cosmos. This isn't just a home for gods, it's the beating heart of divine order, a place where myth and majesty intertwine. At the center of Asgard stands Valhalla, the most legendary of its halls, where fallen warriors are welcomed by Odin himself. Imagine a feasting hall so vast its rafters are made of spear shafts, its roof tiles of polished shields, and its benches draped in the furs of heroic ancestors. Here, the Einherjar, the chosen warriors who died bravely in battle, spend their afterlife honing their skills by day and feasting by night, preparing for the final showdown at Ragnarok. But Valhalla isn't just a warrior's paradise, it's a strategic stronghold. Odin, the All-Father, gathers these souls not out of mere generosity, but as an army for the twilight of the gods. Every mead-soaked toast, every clashing sword, is a rehearsal for the end of days. Yet Asgard is more than Valhalla. Scattered across its rolling plains and misty peaks are other halls, each reflecting the god who dwells within. There's Bilskirnir, Thor's thunderous abode, said to be the largest building in all the realms, with 540 rooms to house the souls of thralls and common folk who worshipped him. Then there's Sessrumnir, Freyja's hall, where half of the battle dead choose to reside, proof that even in divinity, there's room for choice. And let's not forget Fensalir, Frigg's tranquil home, where the goddess of foresight weaves the threads of fate alongside her handmaidens. These halls aren't just dwellings, they're extensions of the gods' domains, each a microcosm of their power and personality. Connecting Asgard to the mortal world below is the Bifrost, the radiant rainbow bridge guarded by the watchful Heimdall. Often mistaken for a fragile arc of light, the Bifrost is anything but delicate. Its 3 flaming strands, red, blue, and green, are woven from fire and magic, sturdy enough to bear the weight of gods, yet perilous for giants to cross. Heimdall stands at its gate, his horn Gijalar horn at the ready, his senses so sharp he can hear grass growing in Midgard and see 100 leagues in any direction. The bridge isn't just a pathway, it's a boundary. When Ragnarok dawns, its collapse will sever the link between gods and humanity, marking the end of an era. But what truly makes Asgard fascinating is its duality. For all its splendor, it's a realm under siege. The high walls encircling it weren't built for decoration. They were raised by a giant stonemason in a deal gone wrong, a reminder that even the gods must outwit their enemies. The Aesir aren't complacent rulers. They're warriors, schemers, and occasional tricksters who know their reign is precarious. Loki's betrayals simmer beneath the surface, and the giants of Jotunheim loom at the edges, testing Asgard's defenses. This tension between glory and vulnerability is what gives the realm its depth. Asgard's influence stretches far beyond its borders. When Thor rides out to smash giants with Mjolnir, when Odin wanders Midgard in disguise to seek wisdom, even when Idun's golden apples grant the gods eternal youth, these aren't isolated acts. They're threads in a tapestry of divine intervention that sustains the balance of the 9 realms. To understand Asgard is to understand the Norse worldview. Power isn't static, and even gods must fight to preserve their dominion. So as we stand amidst the golden spires and echoing halls, remember this: Asgard isn't just a mythic metropolis. It's a symbol of order in a universe teetering on chaos, a realm where every choice ripples across Yggdrasil's branches. And as we'll soon see, its glittering facade hides alliances and rivalries that shape the destiny of all creation. But now, let's journey beyond the golden gates of Asgard and into the lush, enigmatic realm of Vanaheim, home to the Vanir gods. If Asgard represents order and power, Vanaheim embodies the untamed forces of nature, fertility, and deep magic. Imagine rolling fields ripe with golden grain, forests so alive they seem to whisper secrets, and rivers that shimmer with an otherworldly glow. This is where the Vanir hold sway, masters of harvests, seafaring, and the unseen energies that weave through the world. The Vanir are a fascinating contrast to the Aesir. Where Odin and Thor command thunder and war, the Vanir gods like Freyr and Freyja preside over abundance and desire. Freyr, the god of sunshine and rain, rides a golden-bristled boar named Gullinbursti, a creature so radiant it lights up the darkest nights. His sister Freyja, the goddess of love and sorcery, wears a cloak of falcon feathers and weaves spells with a skill that even Odin covets. Then there's Njord, the tranquil god of the sea and winds, who calms storms and fills fishermen's nets. Together, they represent the cycles of life, growth, decay, and renewal, forces just as vital as the thunderbolts of the Aesir. Yet the relationship between the Aesir and Vanir wasn't always peaceful. Long before the halls of Asgard gleamed, the two pantheons waged a brutal war, one born of misunderstanding and pride. The Aesir, rigid in their ways, saw the Vanir's magic as chaotic, while the Vanir resented the Aesir's dominance. Battles raged until both sides realized neither could claim victory. So they did something remarkable. They exchanged hostages. The Vanir sent Freyr, Freyja, and Njord to Asgard, while the Aesir offered Mimir, a figure of wisdom, and Honir, a god of uncertain power. This wasn't mere diplomacy, it was a fusion of worlds. The Vanir brought their magic to Asgard, teaching the Aesir the art of Seder, a form of prophecy and enchantment once considered unmanly by Odin's warriors. In return, the Aesir shared their strength, blending the two pantheons into something greater. The truce reshaped Norse mythology. Freyja, now in Asgard, became the one who taught Odin the secrets of Seder, forever altering his pursuit of knowledge. Meanwhile, Freyr's presence softened the Aesir's harsh edges. his rituals ensuring fertile lands and fair winds. Even Njord, though he never grew accustomed to the howling wolves of Asgard, brought stability to the seas. The war's end didn't erase differences, it honored them. The Vanir retained their autonomy in Vanaheim, their connection to the earth untouched, while their influence radiated across the realms. What makes Vanaheim unique is its quiet power. Unlike Asgard's towering fortresses, Vanaheim's strength lies in its harmony. The Vanir don't conquer, they nurture. When Freyr gives up his sword to win the love of the giantess Gerd, it's not a loss but a testament to the Vanir's values: peace over conflict, love over war. This doesn't make them weak. Freyja's tears, shed for her missing husband, become red gold, a reminder that even sorrow holds worth, and when Ragnarok comes, it's Freyr who faces the fire giant Surtur, armed with nothing but an antler, proving that courage isn't always clad in steel. The legacy of the Aesir-Vanir war lingers in every myth. It's why Odin, the god of war, is also a seeker of magic. It's why the Norse didn't just worship thunder, but also the soil under their feet. Vanaheim teaches us that balance isn't surrender, it's wisdom. And as we'll soon see, this duality echoes through the other realms, from the ethereal glow of Elfheim to the shadowed forges of Svartalfheim. Now, let's turn our gaze toward the shimmering radiance of Elfheim, a realm bathed in eternal light, where elegance and nature intertwine in perfect harmony. Picture a land where the air itself glows softly, where rolling meadows bloom with flowers that never wilt, and where the very trees hum with an otherworldly melody. This is the home of the Light Elves, beings of such ethereal beauty and grace that their presence feels like a living dream. Unlike Vanaheim's untamed abundance or Asgard's towering might, Elfheim pulses with a delicate, almost fragile brilliance. The Light Elves, or Eljozulfar, are creatures of artistry and refinement, their existence woven into the natural world in ways both subtle and profound. They are the caretakers of light, not just the physical glow of the sun, but the unseen radiance that lingers in dew-kissed spiderwebs and the first frost of winter mornings. Wherever life flourishes with quiet splendor, the Light Elves are near. Their connection to nature runs deeper than mere admiration. Think of them as the hidden architects of the world's beauty. When spring coaxes blossoms from barren branches, it's said the Light Elves whisper to the roots. When autumn paints the forests in gold and crimson, their hands guide the brush. Unlike the Vanir, who command fertility and storms, or the Aesir, who shape destinies with war and wisdom, the Light Elves work in gentle touches, a breeze that carries a seed to fertile soil, a ripple that turns a stagnant pond clear. But don't mistake their gentleness for weakness. In Norse mythology, the Light Elves wield a power as potent as it is serene. They are closely tied to Freyr, the Vanir god who rules Elfheim as a gift from the Aesir. Some legends say the elves are his loyal servants, while others suggest they are his kin, sharing his affinity for growth and renewal. Together, they ensure the cycles of nature never falter. When Freyr rides his golden boar across the sky, it's the Light Elves who scatter light in his wake, painting dawn and dusk with their magic. Their role in the Norse cosmos is as vital as it is overlooked. While giants clash and gods scheme, the Light Elves maintain the balance of wonder. They remind even the mightiest warriors that strength isn't always found in a sword. Sometimes, it's in the unbroken song of a lark or the unfurling of a single leaf. When mortals stumble upon a glade that feels too perfect to be real, or catch a flicker of movement just beyond their sight, they've brushed against Elfheim's influence. Yet, for all their grace, the Light Elves are not without mystery. Unlike the dwarves, who toil in forges, or the gods, who walk openly among men, the light elves prefer the edges of perception. They are glimpsed, not seen, felt, not grasped. Some say they can heal with a touch, others that their laughter cures sorrow. But one thing is certain: their realm, Alfheim, stands as a testament to the idea that beauty is not frivolous. In a universe of chaos and conflict, the light elves are the quiet guardians of joy, proving that even in the Norse cosmos, there is a place for softness amid the storm. And as we'll soon discover, this interplay of light and shadow extends even further into the depths of Svartalfheim, where the dwarves craft wonders from the bones of the earth. But for now, let Alfheim linger in your mind, a realm where every beam of light holds a story, and every whisper of the wind carries a secret. Now, let us descend from the luminous heights of Alfheim into the shadowed depths of Svartalfheim, a realm of echoing caverns, molten forges, and relentless ingenuity. If the light elves are the poets of the Norse cosmos, then the dwarves are its master smiths, craftsmen, of such skill that even the gods covet their creations. Here, beneath the roots of Yggdrasil, the world tree, lies a labyrinth of tunnels where fire and metal sing in harmony, shaping wonders that defy mortal imagination. Svartalfheim, often called Nidavellir in some sagas, is a realm of contrasts. Unlike the sunlit meadows of Alfheim, its halls are lit by the glow of furnaces and the flicker of torchlight. The air hums with the rhythmic clang of hammers on anvils, and the scent of molten gold mingles with the earth's deep musk. This is where the dwarves, or Svartalfar, dwell, beings as tough as the stone they carve and as shrewd as the contracts they bargain. While the light elves weave beauty, the dwarves forge destiny, crafting artifacts that shape the fate of gods and men alike. Their legendary craftsmanship is no mere exaggeration. From Thor's mighty hammer, Mjolnir, to Odin's spear, Gungnir, and Freya's dazzling necklace, Brisingamen, the dwarves' creations are the stuff of myth. Each piece is more than a weapon or trinket. They are embodiments of power, enchanted with runes and spells that even the Aesir cannot replicate. Mjolnir, for instance, isn't just a tool of thunder, it's a symbol of protection, capable of leveling mountains and returning to Thor's hand like a loyal hound. Such marvels didn't spring from idle hands. The dwarves labored with a precision that bordered on divine, their techniques whispered to them by the very bones of the earth. Yet their relationship with the gods is far from simple. The dwarves are no humble servants, they are deal-makers, trading their creations for favors, gold, or sometimes trickery of their own. Take the story of Loki and the dwarf Brokkr, who wagered his head against a bet that his brother Sindri could craft gifts greater than those of the rival dwarves. The result: Thor's hammer, Odin's golden arm ring, and Freya's boar-shaped chariot, gifts so magnificent that even Loki's silver tongue couldn't weasel out of the consequences. The dwarves' cunning is as sharp as their blades, and crossing them is a gamble few can afford. But there's more to Svartalfheim than clever bargains and glittering hoards. The dwarves are also keepers of ancient wisdom, their tongues fluent in the language of runes and their hands skilled in the art of transformation. They can spin straw into gold, yes, but also weave moonlight into thread or trap a tempest in a gemstone. Their forges are alchemical crucibles, turning raw ore into objects of fate, and though they dwell in darkness, their influence stretches across the 9 realms. Every sword that never dulls, every ship that sails true, every crown that sits heavy with power, each carries a whisper of Svartalfheim's craft. Unlike the ethereal light elves, the dwarves are grounded in gritty reality. They are miners, smiths and traders, their society built on merit and mastery. Status isn't inherited here, it's earned at the anvil. A dwarf's reputation hinges on their ability to shape the impossible, and their rivalries are as fierce as their furnaces. Yet, for all their pragmatism, they are not without their own strange magic. Some tales speak of dwarves who can shape-shift into beasts, or vanish into shadows like smoke. Others warn of their curses, which cling like shadow to those who betray them. And so, Svartalfheim stands as a testament to the Norse belief that creation is not always born from light. Sometimes, the greatest wonders emerge from the dark, hammered into being by hands that understand both the weight of the earth and the price of ambition. As we'll soon see, this interplay of craft and cunning finds its counterpoint in the chaos of Jotunheim, where giants and gods wage their endless feud. But for now, let the dwarves' legacy linger, their forges still burning, their anvils still ringing, their creations still shaping the fate of the cosmos. But now, let us turn from the clang of Svartalfheim's forges to the untamed wilds of Jotunheim, where the land itself seems to breathe with raw, primal energy. Here, the frost and mountain giants roam beings as ancient as the cosmos, their very existence a challenge to the order the gods have carved from chaos. If the dwarves are the architects of the Norse world, the giants are its restless heart, embodying the untamed forces that even Odin's wisdom cannot fully control. Jotunheim is a realm of staggering extremes. Towering peaks claw at the sky, their summits lost in perpetual storms, while valleys plunge into chasms where rivers of ice grind against the earth. The air is thick with the scent of pine and snow, and the wind carries the distant howls of giants, sometimes a challenge, sometimes a lament. This is no place for delicate beauty or structured society. Instead, Jotunheim thrives on chaos, its landscapes shifting with the whims of its inhabitants. Frost giants carve palaces from glaciers that glitter like shattered glass, while mountain giants hollow out fortresses in the roots of the world, their halls echoing with the rumble of avalanches. The giants, or Jotnar, are more than mere brutes. They are the first children of Ymir, the primordial giant whose body became the world, and their blood carries the same wild magic that shaped the cosmos. Some are colossal beings, their footsteps sending tremors through the earth, while others can shrink their forms to walk unseen among gods and men. They are masters of illusion, reshaping their appearances as easily as a mortal might don a cloak. But whether as towering figures or disguised wanderers, their presence is always a reminder of the fragile balance between order and chaos. Their relationship with the gods is a tapestry of conflict and uneasy alliance. On one hand, the Aesir and Jotnar are locked in an eternal struggle, a feud born from the very moment Odin and his brothers slew Ymir to create the world. The giants crave vengeance for their ancestors' death, and the gods fear their power especially when it threatens Midgard, the realm of humans. Yet, the lines between enemy and ally blur often. The gods themselves are descended from giants. Odin's mother, Bisla, was a giantess, and Thor's own strength comes from his giant heritage. Even Loki, the trickster who walks among the Aesir, is a giant by blood, his schemes a constant reminder of how intertwined their fates truly are. Take the story of Skadi, the frost giantess who marched into Asgard demanding restitution after the gods killed her father. Instead of war, she bargained for a marriage to one of the Aesir, though her choice, made by judging only their feet, led her to the sea god Njord, a mismatch that ended in laughter rather than love. Or consider Utgard Loki, the giant king who tested Thor's might with impossible challenges, revealing that even the god of thunder could be outwitted. These tales show the giants as more than just foes. They are catalysts, pushing the gods to greater heights or exposing their flaws. Yet when Ragnarok comes, it is the giants who will lead the charge against the gods, their fury unleashed in a storm of fire and ice. Surtur, the fire giant from Muspelheim, will set the world ablaze, while Jormungandr, the monstrous serpent sired by Loki, will rise from the sea to poison the skies. The giants are not just adversaries, they are the inevitability of change, the force that ensures even the gods cannot hold back time forever. But for all their destructive potential, the giants also bring creation. Without them, the gods would lack the challenges that define them. Thor's battles against the giants are not just feats of strength, they are proof of his role as protector. Odin's endless quest for knowledge often leads him to Jotunheim, where giant seers guard prophecies even he cannot unravel. And in quieter moments, the giants remind the gods of their own limits, their mortality. For in the end, both gods and giants will fall together, their destinies woven into the same great tapestry. So Jotunheim stands as a realm of contradictions, a place of violence and wisdom, of ancient grudges and unexpected kinship. It is the shadow that gives shape to the light, the chaos that makes order meaningful. And as we'll see next, this duality finds its purest expression in Muspelheim, where fire and flame herald both creation and destruction. But for now, let the giants have their say, their voices echoing through the crags, a reminder that some forces are too vast to ever be tamed. Yet if Jotunheim is the untamed wild, a land of ice and storm, then Muspelheim is its blazing counterpart, a realm where fire does not just burn, but consumes, transforms, and ultimately remakes. Here, at the dawn of creation, when all that existed was the void of Ginnungagap, Muspelheim's searing flames clashed with Niflheim's icy winds to birth the very first being, Ymir. This is not merely a land of destruction, it is the furnace from which life first sparked, and the forge where the world will one day meet its end. Muspelheim is a realm of unbearable brilliance. Its skies are not skies at all but vast, churning curtains of flame, and the ground beneath is a cracked plain of molten rock, rivers of fire carving paths through glowing stone. There are no gentle sunrises here, no cool shadows, only an endless, roaring inferno. At its heart stands Surtur, the fire giant whose name means the Black One, though he is anything but dark. Clad in living flame, with a sword that blazes brighter than 1,000 suns, Surtur is less a ruler and more an embodiment of Muspelheim itself. He does not command the fire, he is the fire, an ancient force older than the gods, waiting patiently for the day when his flames will consume the 9 realms. Yet Muspelheim's role in the Norse cosmos is not just one of doom. In the beginning, its heat was essential. When the icy rivers of Niflheim met Muspelheim's fires in Ginnungagap, the steam condensed into the first drops of life, forming Ymir, the primordial giant. Without this clash of fire and ice, there would have been no world, no gods, no stories to tell. Even the sun and moon were born from Muspelheim's sparks, plucked by the gods and set in the sky to light the heavens. But for all its creative power, Muspelheim is fated to be the world's end. When Ragnarok comes, Surtur will lead his fire giants across the Bifrost, the rainbow bridge shattering beneath their steps. His sword will cleave the heavens, setting the world tree ablaze, and the seas will boil away as the earth drowns in flame. Yet this is not mere annihilation, it is a cleansing, a necessary end so that life can begin anew. The Norse myths do not see Ragnarok as a final defeat, but as a cycle, Much like a forest fire that clears the way for fresh growth, Surtur himself is a figure of terrifying inevitability. Unlike the frost giants of Jotunheim, who scheme and feud with the gods, Surtur does not bother with tricks or alliances. He waits, silent and unstoppable, because he knows his time will come. Even Odin, with all his wisdom, cannot bargain with or outthink the flames. This makes Muspelheim uniquely fearsome among the realms, not a place of chaotic struggles, but of absolute, impersonal fate. Yet for all its terror, Muspelheim is not without its strange beauty. Its fires sculpt landscapes of glass and basalt, twisting spires that catch the light like gemstones. To the dwarves, who sometimes brave its edges in search of rare metals, the realm is both a danger and a marvel, its heat refining raw ore into legendary weapons like Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. Even the gods, for all their dread, acknowledge Muspelheim's power. After all, without fire, there would be no forges, no warmth, no light to push back the eternal cold. Muspelheim teaches us that destruction and creation are two sides of the same blade. It reminds us that the world was born from fire, and to fire it will return, not as punishment, but as the natural order of things. And as we turn next to Niflheim, the realm of ice and mist, we'll see how these two primal forces, fire and frost, shape not just the Norse cosmos, but the very meaning of balance. For now, let the flames linger in your mind, not just as an omen of doom, but as the spark that once began it all. But where Muspelheim blazes with relentless fire, Niflheim stands as its eternal opposite, a realm where cold is not just an absence of heat, but a force all its own. Imagine a land where mist curls like living tendrils, where the very air is thick with frost, and the ground is a sheet of unbroken ice stretching into endless twilight. This is Niflheim, the primordial realm of cold and shadow, a place so ancient it existed before time itself began. Niflheim's icy breath once mingled with Muspelheim's fires in the void of Ginnungagap, creating the steam that birthed Ymir, the first giant. But while Muspelheim's flames shaped creation, Niflheim's chill carved its own legacy. Here, the well of Ymir bubbles up from the roots of Yggdrasil, its freezing waters giving rise to 11 rivers that snake through the realm. These are not rivers as we know them, they are currents of ice and poison, their names echoing their nature: Slid, the stormy one; Fjorm, the rushing; and Gjol, the howling, which flows closest to the gates of hell. This realm is more than just a wasteland of ice. It is the birthplace of primordial fear, the kind that seeps into bones and lingers. The mist here is so thick it blots out the sun, and the cold is so deep it can freeze a soul mid-thought. Yet within this desolation lies a grim purpose. Niflheim is the ancestor of all cold, the source of winter's bite and the grave's silence. Its influence stretches beyond its borders, touching every realm in subtle ways, from the frost that clings to Jotunheim's peaks to the chill that waits in Hell's halls. Speaking of Hell, Niflheim's connection to the underworld runs deep. Helheim, the land of the dead, is said to lie within Niflheim's frozen embrace, its gates shrouded in perpetual gloom. The goddess Hel, half living and half corpse, rules here, welcoming those who died of sickness or age, away from the glory of Valhalla. But Helheim is not merely a pit of despair. In Norse belief, death is not an end, but a transition, a cold pause before whatever comes next. The rivers of Niflheim feed into Hell's domain, their icy waters a reminder that even in stillness, there is movement, a slow but inevitable flow toward rebirth. The creatures of Niflheim are as harsh as their home. Frost giants stalk its wastes, their breath turning air to ice, while the dragon Nidhogg gnaws at Yggdrasil's roots below, its endless hunger a symbol of decay. Yet even Nidhogg has a role to play. Just as Surtur's fire will one day cleanse the world, Niflheim's cold preserves it, ensuring balance. Without this icy counterweight, Muspelheim's flames would consume everything unchecked. Niflheim's legacy is one of quiet power. It does not roar like fire or shake the earth like thunder. It creeps, it settles, it endures. The Norse understood that cold is not merely the absence of heat, but a presence of its own, as vital as flame. It is the frost that hardens the soil for spring, the mist that hides the hunter, the silence that makes the songs sweeter. And as we'll see next, when these two primordial forces, fire and ice, collide once more at Ragnarok, their clash will not just destroy the world, but reset it, as they did at the dawn of time. For now, let the cold of Niflheim settle into your thoughts, not as an end, but as the necessary pause between one breath and the next. Now let's descend deeper into the chill of Niflheim, where the shadows grow thicker and the air stills, into Helheim, the realm of the dead. Unlike Valhalla's golden halls or Folkvanger's fields, Helheim is no reward for the brave. This is where those who perish quietly, of sickness, old age, or accidents find their rest. Governed by the goddess Hel, a figure as enigmatic as her domain, this underworld is neither a place of punishment nor paradise, but a stark reflection of life's inevitable end. Hel herself is a haunting embodiment of duality. Born to Loki and the giantess Angerboda, her appearance tells the tale of her realm. One half of her body is alive, flushed with the color of the living, while the other half is corpse-pale, cold to the touch. She doesn't judge the dead, nor torment them. She simply keeps the balance, ensuring the natural order of things. Her hall, named Eldjidnir, the sprayed with sleet, stands at the heart of Helheim, its roof woven from the spines of serpents, dripping with frost. The landscape here mirrors its ruler's solemn presence. Picture a vast, mist-cloaked plain where sluggish rivers, fed by Niflheim's icy tributaries, carve through the gloom. The river Gjol, frigid and black, marks Helheim's boundary, its waters humming with whispers of the dead. Crossing it requires traversing a bridge named Gjalarbru, guarded by the maiden Midgard, who questions every soul that passes. Beyond lies the gate to Helheim itself, flanked by walls so high they blot out the sky, and a threshold named Helgrind, the gates of Hell, where the giant hound Garmr prowls, his howls echoing into the silence. Unlike the Christian Hell, Helheim isn't a pit of eternal fire or torment. Instead, it's a place of eerie stillness, where souls wander in a state akin to twilight, neither suffering nor rejoicing. The dead here leave much as they did in life, but dimmer, slower, wrapped in the muffled quiet of a world without sun. Some halls, like Nastrand, the corpse shore, are reserved for oath breakers and murderers, where venomous serpents drip poison onto the wicked. Yet even this punishment is less about cruelty and more about upholding the Norse belief that actions have consequences. Helheim's connection to life might surprise you. In a culture that revered cycles creation from destruction, rebirth from decay, this realm wasn't just an end. The dead here weren't forgotten, they were consulted. Norse sagas tell of heroes like Odin or Hermod journeying to Helheim to seek wisdom from the departed. Even Balder, the beloved god of light, found temporary refuge here after his tragic death, until the failed attempt to rescue him sealed his fate until Ragnarok. What makes Helheim truly fascinating is its role in the grand design. Just as winter must come before spring, Helheim's quiet is a necessary pause in the cosmos. Its rivers feed Yggdrasil's roots, and its mists temper Muspelheim's fire. When Ragnarok dawns, Hel's army of the dead will march alongside Loki's monstrous children, not out of malice, but because destruction is part of renewal. The cold of Helheim doesn't just preserve, it prepares. So as we step away from this realm of mist and murmurs, remember, in Norse belief, death is never just an ending. It's a threshold, a breath held between one verse of the saga and the next. And with that, we turn toward the heavens, where the gods crafted light itself. Next, we'll witness the creation of the sun and moon. Now we rise from the cold hush of Helheim to witness a dazzling act of creation, one that lit the cosmos for the first time. Picture this: the gods, standing amid the newly shaped realms, realized the world lay cloaked in perpetual twilight. Without light, the cycles of life couldn't turn, so they looked to the remnants of Muspelheim, the primordial realm of fire, where embers still glowed from the world's forging. From these sparks, they crafted two radiant orbs: the sun, a blaze of golden warmth, and the moon, a disk of cool silver. But these weren't mere objects, they were alive. The gods named them Sol and Mani, personifying them as sister and brother destined to race across the sky. To carry them, they built chariots, harnessing them to celestial steeds whose manes shimmered like molten metal for Sol, and frost-kissed starlight for Mani. Yet even light must have its shadow. The gods knew chaos still lurked at the edges of order, so they placed two wolves, Skal and Hati, to forever pursue Sol and Mani. Skal, whose name means treachery, chases the sun with jaws gaping, while Hati, hatred, hunts the moon with relentless hunger. This wasn't just spectacle, it was prophecy. The Norse believed that one day, at Ragnarok, these wolves would finally catch their prey, plunging the world into darkness before rebirth. The symbolism here is profound. The sun and moon's flight mirrors the Norse understanding of time as both cyclical and fragile. Each dawn, Sol escapes Skal's teeth, just as each night, Mani slips from Hati's grasp, a daily victory against chaos. Their paths aren't random either. Sol's chariot arcs high over Midgard, showering light on humanity, while Mani's cooler glow guides the tides and the rhythms of crops. Together, they weave the fabric of seasons, growth, and survival. Even the wolves carry meaning. Skal and Hati aren't mindless monsters, but forces of inevitability. Their chase reminds us that even the gods' creations are temporary, bound by the same laws of fate that govern mortals. When poets sang of the wolf's age, they spoke of decline, of endings that must come before new beginnings. Yet every morning, when Sol's light crests the horizon, it whispers defiance, a promise that balance endures, if only for another day. This celestial dance also reveals the Norse flair for blending beauty with brutality. The chariot's wheels scorch the sky, leaving trails we now call the auroras. Mani's face, pale and pocked, was said to bear the marks of his struggles, a reminder that even the divine bears scars. And when eclipses darkened the sky, it was whispered the wolves had come dangerously close, sending villages into uproar as they banged pots to scare them away. In the end, the sun and moon aren't just lights in the sky. They're living threads in the tapestry of Norse myth, binding creation to destruction, order to chaos. As we watch them rise and set even now, we're glimpsing the same drama the Vikings did, a world forever balanced on the edge of a wolf's teeth, yet radiant with stubborn, enduring light. And with that light comes time itself. Next, we'll see how the gods harnessed these celestial cycles to carve the first day from the void. Now, as the sun and moon took their places in the heavens, the gods faced their next great task, to divide the endless twilight into the first day and night. Think of it like this: without these rhythms, the world would be trapped in a single moment, unchanging and stagnant. So Odin and his brothers turned their attention to the very fabric of time itself. They appointed two beings to govern these cycles. Not the embodiment of night was a figure of quiet mystery. Cloaked in darkness, she rode a shadowy horse named Hrimfaxi, whose frosted bit scattered dew across the earth as he passed. Her son, Dagger, brought the day, a radiant figure whose gleaming horse, Skinfaxi, lit the sky with the glow of his golden mane. Each in turn would race across the sky, their arrivals marked by the rising and setting of Sol and Mani's chariots. But here's where the Norse vision of time gets fascinating. Day and night weren't just practical divisions, they were cosmic echoes of creation's deeper themes. Not's lineage tied her to the giants, those primordial forces of chaos, while Dagger's light symbolized the gods' order. Their endless chase mirrored the balance between darkness and light, chaos and control that defined the Norse universe. Even their horses carried meaning. Hrimfaxi's frost was a remnant of Niflheim's icy breath, while Skinfaxi's radiance echoed Muspelheim's fire. The gods didn't stop there. They carved the sky into segments, each with its own purpose. The Daymark guided farmers, while the Nightmark helped sailors navigate by the stars. Seasons emerged from this dance, long summers when Sol lingered, and winters when Not stretched her cloak across the land. Vikings saw these cycles as sacred. The return of daylight after the solstice wasn't just weather, it was a sign the gods still held chaos at bay. Consider how deeply this myth shaped daily life. When Norse poets spoke of Dagger's first light, they weren't just describing dawn, they invoked renewal, the chance to outrun one's own wolves, be they hardship, fate, or time itself. And Not's arrival, it was a reminder that even gods needed rest, that darkness wasn't evil but necessary. Farmers sowed crops by Sol's path, while smiths timed their work by the moon's phases, believing Mani's silver glow strengthened iron. The wolves still played their part. As Skal and Hati nipped at the heels of the celestial lights, their near catches marked eclipses, events that sent seers scrambling to interpret omens. An unexpected darkness at noon wasn't just eerie, it was a glimpse of Ragnarok's approach, a crack in the world's fragile order. Yet every morning, when Skinfaxi's mane burned away the shadows, it reaffirmed the gods' promise: chaos might chase, but light would always return. This rhythm became the heartbeat of Norse culture. Festivals aligned with solstices, contracts were sealed at high noon when Dagger's power peaked, and tales were told by firelight as Not's dew settled. Even the afterlife reflected this duality. Fallen warriors feasted in Valhalla's eternal daylight, while the restless dead wandered Helheim's endless twilight. What makes this myth so enduring is its refusal to simplify. The Norse didn't see day as good and night as bad. Both were essential, intertwined like the roots of Yggdrasil. Not's darkness nurtured crops as surely as Dagger's sun ripened them. A Viking navigating by starlight knew the same constellations that terrified others could guide him home. And so the world found its pulse. The chariots rolled, the wolves gave chase, and mortals below learned to read time in the flight of shadows and the angle of light. But the gods knew one truth above all: every dawn was borrowed, every sunset a reprieve. The true mastery wasn't in controlling time, but in learning to ride its tide. Now, as we trace the paths of these first days and nights, we'll see how the dwarves, those cunning smiths of the cosmos, took these celestial rhythms and forged them into something even more precise. But the gods weren't the only ones shaping the destiny of time. Hidden in the shadowy forges of Svartalfheim, the dwarves, those master craftsmen of the cosmos, were already hammering order into existence. While Odin and his brothers set the celestial wheels in motion, the dwarves took those grand strokes of light and darkness and carved them into something far more intricate. You see, the dwarves weren't just skilled smiths, they were cosmic architects. Picture their underground halls, lit by glowing embers, where every strike of the hammer resonated with the pulse of Yggdrasil itself. They observed how Sol and Mani moved across the sky, how knots dew clung to barley fields at dawn, and how the wolves near catches marked ominous shifts. Then, with typical dwarf ingenuity, they translated these patterns into tools mortals could use. Their first gift, the reckoning of days, using shimmering fragments of Muspelheim's fire trapped in crystal, they crafted the first sunstone's devices that could track the sun's path even through storms. Vikings later carried these on ships, but in mythic times, they served as primal calendars. A dwarf would notch a bone or stone for each passing day, aligning it with the sunstone's glow. 5 notches meant a market week, 30 a moon's turn, simple yet revolutionary, but seasons demanded deeper wisdom. The dwarves noticed how the height of Sol's chariot changed throughout the year, how shadows stretched longer in winter, and how certain stars only appeared when Not's cloak grew thickest. So they marked 4 great pillars in Svartalfheim's halls, one for each solstice and equinox. On these days, the angle of sunlight through fissures in the mountain walls would strike specific runes, signaling when to sow, harvest, or stockpile. Farmers who traded with dwarves learned these signs, giving rise to the first seasonal almanacs. Here's where their genius truly shone. The dwarves didn't just track time, they weaponized it. Knowing that iron quenched under a waxing moon held stronger enchantments, or that oak cut at midwinter resisted rot, they bound temporal magic into every creation. Mjolnir wasn't just forged in fire, it was tempered in the heartbeat between 2 eclipses. Even their famed ship Skidbladnir could fold itself small as a handkerchief because its sails were woven during the liminal hours when neither day nor night held sway. Yet their most profound work lay in the concept of destiny. Just as they notched days, the dwarves carved the first runic calendars, each symbol corresponding to a god, season, or omen. To read the runes wasn't just divination, it was consulting the dwarves' original time map. The Norns themselves were said to borrow this system, weaving their prophecies along similar threads. A Viking checking his rune staff to plan a voyage was, in essence, tapping into dwarf wisdom millennia old. And let's not forget their darker arts. Dwarves understood that some moments held unique power. The wolf's hour, just before dawn when Hati's breath chilled the air, was when they crafted weapons meant to never miss. Contracts signed under a midnight sun, when Sol refused to set in summer, were considered unbreakable, a tradition that persisted in Norse law. Even their curses hinged on time. A dwarf might vow that a sword would fail on the 3rd new moon, weaving fate into the very metal. What's remarkable is how seamlessly their systems merged with the gods' work. The celestial cycles provided the framework, but the dwarves gave mortals the tools to navigate it. A farmer didn't need to understand Dagger's chariot, he just followed the dwarf-marked stones showing when to plant. A sailor might not know Skal's name, but he feared the sun-eating day, eclipse foretold by his rune calendar. This collaboration reveals a deeper truth about Norse cosmology. Creation wasn't a one-time act, but an ongoing dialogue. The gods set the stage, but the dwarves wrote the script, and humanity learned to perform it. Every sunrise counted on a tally stick, every harvest timed by star marks was a whisper of that ancient partnership. Now, as the wheels of time turned with dwarf-forged precision, the gods turned their attention to those who would inherit this measured world, humanity. And the gifts they bestowed would shape Midgard's destiny in ways even the dwarves couldn't foresee. Now, as the gods watched over this meticulously ordered world, they turned their gaze upon Midgard, the realm they had shaped from Ymir's very flesh to shelter their most cherished creation, humanity. But the first humans, Ask and Embla, were more than just driftwood given form. They were vessels of divine spark, blessed with gifts that would forever set them apart in the tapestry of the 9 realms. Odin, the All-Father, was the first to step forward. Leaning close, he breathed into their still lifeless forms, and with that breath came the gift of earned the soul. This wasn't merely life force, but the essence of inspiration, the fire of poetry, and the hunger for wisdom. It's why humans could gaze at the stars and see not just lights, but stories. Why they could hear the whisper of the wind and feel the pull of destiny. Odin's breath made them seekers, forever chasing knowledge just as he did, even if it came at a price, like his own sacrifice upon Yggdrasil. Next came Vili, the strategist among the brothers. He gifted them not just wit, but the sharpness of mind that could turn chaos into order. Where giants relied on brute strength and gods on magic, humans would thrive through cunning. Think of the Viking who navigated stormy seas by reading the flight of birds, or the farmer who rotated crops long before science explained why it worked. Vili's gift was the spark of innovation, the ability to see patterns where others saw only randomness. Lastly, Ve bestowed La, the warmth of the senses. Touch, taste, and the rush of blood in battle or love. This was the gift of living fully in the world, of savoring mead with friends, feeling the grip of a sword's hilt, or tasting the first berry of summer. But it was also the gift of connection, the ability to read a friend's frown, to catch the lie in a stranger's smile, to weep at a funeral pyre. Ve's touch made humans more than survivors. They became storytellers, lovers, mourners. Together, these gifts created a delicate balance. Odin's soul lifted their eyes to the heavens, Vili's wit anchored them in practicality, and Ve's senses rooted them in the earth. This trifecta explains why, in Norse myth, humans alone could bargain with gods, outwit giants, and even, in rare cases, cheat death. A giant might be stronger, a god more powerful, but no being in the cosmos had this exact blend of traits. And the gods didn't stop there. They wove protections into Midgard itself. Ymir's eyebrows, raised into mountains, became natural ramparts against frost giants. The seas, his blood, were both highway and moat nourishing trade while drowning invaders. Even the dwarves' time-keeping tools, gifted to humanity, became shields against chaos. Knowing when winter would end meant villages could prepare rather than despair, yet these gifts came with a catch. A soul meant humans could feel loneliness. Wit brought the weight of hard choices, senses made joy fleeting and pain acute. This duality is key to Norse mythology's humanity. They weren't idealized heroes, but flawed, striving beings. When Odin hungered for wisdom, he mirrored their restless hearts. When Loki's tricks backfired, it echoed their own follies. The gods' gifts also defined humanity's role in the cosmic order. Elves might be ethereal, dwarves ingenious, but humans were the weavers of meaning. Their sagas, laws, and even burial rites shaped Midgard as surely as divine hands had. A Viking carving runes on a stone wasn't just marking a grave, he was affirming, "We were here, we mattered." And here's the profound twist: these gifts made humans indispensable to the gods themselves. Without mortals to sing their deeds, How would Odin's name echo beyond Valhalla's walls, without human courage, who would stand beside the Aesir at Ragnarok? The dwarves might craft Thor's hammer, but it took human hands to wield it in tales that outlasted empires. As the first fires flickered in Midgard's hearths, one truth became clear. The gods hadn't just given humanity tools to survive, they'd given them the tools to mean something. And that, perhaps, was the greatest gift of all. Now, as the threads of fate tightened around gods and mortals alike, another force emerged to weave them together, a trio of goddesses whose whispers could shape the destiny of all. But even the gods were not the sole masters of destiny, for there existed three weavers whose threads entwined all who dwelled beneath Yggdrasil's branches. Hidden among the roots of the world tree, where mist curled like smoke from hidden hearths, the Norns carved runes of fate into its bark, not with knives, but with the weight of every choice ever made. Unlike the Greek fates who spun lives like thread to be snipped at whim, the Norns embodied a profound Norse belief: destiny wasn't fixed, but a tapestry constantly rewoven. Urther, the eldest, governed what had been. Her name itself meant fate, or that which has turned. Verdandi ruled what was becoming, the shimmering now where actions still held power. And Skuld, youngest and most feared, held sway over what must be, not through cruelty, but through the unbreakable logic of consequences. Their well, Urtharbrunner, wasn't just a pool but a mirror of existence. Here, the gods themselves would kneel, not to command but to seek counsel. Even Odin, who traded an eye for wisdom, knew some answers lay beyond his sight. The water reflected neither past nor future, but the tangled net of cause and effect. When mortals spoke of weaving one's fate, they spoke true. Every oath kept, every battle fought, every kindness shown tugged at the Norns' threads. But their influence went deeper than individual lives. The Norns tended Yggdrasil itself, mixing mud from the well with salt to heal its ever-rotting roots. This wasn't mere maintenance, it symbolized their role as cosmic balancers. When frost giants grew too bold, their carvings might steer a human king toward a provocation. When Midgard's wars festered too long, a subtle nudge could send a hero stumbling upon truce terms. Their interventions were never direct, no lightning bolts or plagues, but came through whispers in dreams, sudden shifts in wind, or the odd behavior of ravens. Consider this paradox: the Norns saw all possible paths, yet mortals kept free will. How? Because knowing a choice's weight doesn't remove the choosing. A Viking setting sail might hear storm winds as Skuld's warning, but he decided whether to risk the waves or wait. The gods, too, were bound by this law. Thor might swing Mjolnir at Ragnarok, but the Norns had only set the stage. His courage in that moment would be his own. This duality explains why Norse culture revered fate yet celebrated action. A runestone might proclaim, "Fate goes ever as it must," while its carvers spent months perfecting its symbols. Warriors laughed in battle not from recklessness, but from understanding that while their hour of death was written, how they met it was not. The Norns didn't erase agency, they gave consequence its teeth. Their presence also solved a riddle central to Norse cosmology: how chaos and order could coexist. Ymir's flesh had birthed both mountains and monsters, just as Audhumla's licking brought forth gods from ice. The Norns didn't eliminate this tension, they harnessed it. When Loki's mischief birthed the ship Naglfar, made entirely of dead men's nails, destined to sail at Ragnarok, they didn't stop its creation, but wove its role into the larger design. Chaos became the whetstone against which order proved its worth. Modern echoes of their logic persist. Ever noticed how the worst storms often clear the air? Or how a friend's betrayal might later reveal your own blind spots? The Norns would nod. Their fate was never about punishment, but the universe's relentless push toward equilibrium. Yet they weren't impartial clerks. Their care for Yggdrasil revealed a vested interest in existence itself. Unlike the gods who might favor one king over another, the Norns needed all realms to endure, enough strife to prevent stagnation, enough peace to avoid annihilation. This cosmic pragmatism is why, even at Ragnarok's climax, their final act wouldn't be an ending but a reset. So when whispers spoke of 3 women at life's crossroads, one facing backward, one forward, and one with eyes like a drawn bow, mortals knew to listen. Not to beg for mercy, but to seek the clarity buried in their own choices. For the Norns' greatest lesson was this: destiny isn't a path you walk, but a loom you thread with every step. And as their runes shimmered on Yggdrasil's bark, another realm stirred, one where such choices carried eternal weight. Yet even the Norns' intricate web of fate required structure, a framework upon which the 9 realms could endure. And so the gods, fresh from their world-shaping deeds, turned their minds to the delicate task of law. This was no mere list of rules. In the Norse worldview, order itself was a living force, as vital as Yggdrasil's sap and as precarious as a shield wall in battle. Odin, Vili, and Ve knew that without boundaries, their newborn cosmos would collapse back into Ginnungagap's chaos. But how does one govern giants, elves, and gods alike? Their solution lay in 3 sacred pillars, each woven into the fabric of existence. First came the law of oaths. When a Norse warrior swore on his sword, he wasn't just making a promise, he was altering reality. Oaths bound the swearer's very soul, with consequences echoing through the roots of Yggdrasil. Break one, and you didn't merely lose trust, you risked unraveling the subtle balance the gods had fought to establish. This explains why Tyr, the one-handed god of justice, willingly sacrificed his right hand to bind the monstrous wolf Fenrir. The act wasn't just about trickery, it demonstrated that even gods must honor their word, no matter the cost. Next flowed the law of hospitality. In a world where frost giants could knock on your door and elves might steal your shadow, knowing how to treat guests wasn't just polite, it was survival. A host who refused shelter risked angering a disguised god, while a rude guest might find themselves cursed with eternal hunger like the gluttonous giant Thrym. The sacred guest cup passed between host and visitor wasn't just mead, it was a temporary truce, a recognition that even enemies shared space beneath Yggdrasil's branches. Most profound, however, was the law of cyclical balance. The Norse didn't believe in permanent victory or endless summer. Just as night followed day, peace must give way to war and back again. This explains the gods' seeming contradictions. Odin, both wise ruler and battle inciter, Freya, goddess of love yet leader of the slain. They weren't fickle, but reflections of a deeper truth. Too much order bred stagnation, too much chaos invited destruction. Even their greatest hall, Valhalla, served this balance. By recruiting fallen warriors, Odin wasn't just building an army for Ragnarok. He was ensuring conflict's energy remained contained rather than spilling uncontrolled across Midgard. The gods enforced these laws not through threats, but through embodied example. When Loki's mischief went too far, such as engineering the death of Balder, he faced binding, not execution. The message was clear. Transgression demanded consequence, but annihilation helped no one. Even the monstrous Jormungandr, destined to kill Thor at Ragnarok, was cast into the sea rather than destroyed, becoming the world serpent whose coils measured Midgard's borders. Mortals absorbed these principles through myth and ritual. A Viking burying his chief didn't just place weapons in the grave. He reinforced the oath between leader and follower beyond death's door. Farmers leaving the last sheaf of harvest for Odin's horse Sleipnir weren't merely superstitions. They acknowledged nature's cyclical debt. This legal spirituality reached its peak in Iceland's Althing, where disputes were settled beneath open skies, literally within sight of the gods. Yet the system had its fractures. The giantess Skadi's demand for a husband as recompense for her father's death shows how justice could bend to power. The gods placated her, yes, but by trickery, letting her choose a spouse by foot size alone, which led her to pick Njord rather than Baldur. Such tales reveal the uncomfortable truth. Even divine law favored the strong, so long as they kept oaths intact. Modern legal systems still echo these frameworks. Jury duty mirrors the Norse belief that justice requires community participation. Diplomatic immunity recalls the sanctity of guest right. Even bankruptcy laws, which prioritize restructuring over punishment, reflect the Norse emphasis on balance over retribution. As the smoke of creation settled, these divine laws became Yggdrasil's invisible roots, holding chaos at bay while allowing just enough discord to keep the cosmos alive. For in the Norse world, true order wasn't the absence of conflict, but the wisdom to harness it, and so the stage was set for beings who would test these laws to their limits. Now we come to the shadow that looms over all of creation, Ragnarok. From the very moment the gods shaped the world from Ymir's flesh, this inevitable doom was woven into the fabric of existence. The Norse didn't believe in permanent endings, but rather in cycles of destruction and rebirth. Ragnarok isn't just an apocalypse, it's the dramatic climax of a story that began with the first drop of Ymir's blood spilling into Ginnungagap. The signs of Ragnarok are eerie and unmistakable. First comes Fimbulwinter, a brutal 3-year winter that blankets the world in unending snow, where brother turns against brother just to survive. Then the great wolf Fenrir, long bound by Tyr's sacrifice, finally breaks free, his jaws stretching from earth to sky. His brother Jormungandr, the world serpent, rises from the ocean depths, poisoning the seas as he thrashes toward land. Meanwhile, the fire giants of Muspelheim march across the rainbow bridge Bifrost, led by the flaming sword of Surtur. Even the dead stir in Helheim as the ship Naglfar, made from the fingernails of corpses, sets sail with Loki at the helm. What's fascinating is how Ragnarok mirrors the chaos of creation. Just as the world emerged from the clash of fire and ice, it will return to that primordial state in a final, catastrophic battle. Odin, the Allfather who once shaped order from Ymir's corpse, now rides to face Fenrir knowing he'll be devoured. Thor fights Jormungandr in an epic duel, his greatest foe since casting the serpent into the sea long ago. And though he slays the beast, its venom claims him too. Even the gods' greatest strongholds crumble as Surtur's flames engulf Asgard, reducing the golden halls to smoldering ruins. Yet this isn't the end. 2 humans, Lif and Lifthrasir, survive by hiding in Yggdrasil's roots, just as Ask and Embla once emerged from driftwood. The earth, purified by fire and flood, rises anew from the waters. A new sun, born from the old one's spark, crosses the sky, and whispering through the fresh branches of the reborn world tree are the faint echoes of gods Baldur returned from hell, Vidar avenging Odin, new deities we've yet to meet. This cyclical view reveals a profound Norse truth: destruction isn't failure, but transformation. Even the mightiest realms must fall so that something new can rise. It's a reminder that the struggles we face today are personal battles, societal collapses, even the changing of seasons, are part of a vast, eternal rhythm. The Vikings didn't fear Ragnarok because they understood its necessity. After all, without winter, how could spring ever come? And so we see the full circle of Norse cosmology, from the primal void to the gods' golden age, from the encroaching shadow to the glimmer of renewal. But before that final twilight falls, let's explore how these myths shaped the lives of those who believed in them, how the legacy of the Nine Realms endured long after Viking ships faded from the horizon. Now let's step beyond the myths themselves and see how these ancient stories left their mark, not just on the Vikings who told them, but on our world today. The Norse creation myth wasn't just a tale of gods and giants. It was a blueprint for how the Vikings saw themselves and their place in the cosmos. For the Vikings, these stories were more than entertainment. They were a guide to life. The idea of Ragnarok, for example, taught them to face adversity with courage, knowing even destruction could birth renewal. You see this in their poetry, where skalds compared fallen warriors to Odin's Einherjar, feasting in Valhalla until the final battle. Their art, too, was steeped in symbolism. Intricate carvings on runestones and longships often depicted Yggdrasil, a reminder that all realms, even Midgard, were connected by fate. But perhaps the most surprising legacy is how these myths endured long after the Viking Age. When Christianity spread north, the old stories didn't vanish, they adapted. Icelandic scholars like Snorri Sturluson preserved them in texts like the Prose Edda, mixing pagan lore with medieval scholarship. Without these records, we might have lost tales like Thor's fishing trip for Jormungandr or Odin's sacrifice of his eye for wisdom. Fast forward to modern times, and Norse mythology is everywhere, though not always accurately. Marvel's Thor comics and later films turned the thunder god into a superhero, simplifying his complex origins. Yet they reintroduced millions to figures like Loki, whose mischief in the myths was far darker than his on-screen quips. Video games, too, draw heavily from these legends. Titles like God of War reimagine the Nine Realms as a brutal playground for Kratos, while Assassin's Creed Valhalla weaves Norse beliefs into its historical fiction, letting players raid monasteries as a Viking who still honors Odin. Even our language carries echoes of these myths. The word Thursday literally means Thor's Day, a remnant of Viking-era timekeeping. Phrases like going berserk trace back to warriors who fought in a trance-like fury, much like Odin's berserkers. And let's not forget how Wagner's opera, The Ring Cycle, borrowed Norse themes, inspiring everything from Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, where Gandalf's resurrection mirrors Baldur's return to fantasy tropes about dwarves crafting magical weapons. What makes these myths so enduring? Maybe it's their raw honesty. They don't promise happy endings, just cycles of struggle and renewal. Or perhaps it's their vivid cast, gods who are flawed, giants who are cunning, and humans caught between. Whatever the reason, one thing's clear: the Norse didn't just create a mythos. They gave us stories that still resonate, whether carved on a 1,000-year-old runestone or flashing across a movie screen today. And that brings us to the final chapter of our journey, a chance to reflect on what all these tales of creation, destruction, and rebirth truly mean. Now, as we bring this journey through the Norse creation myth to a close, let's take a moment to weave together the threads of this epic tale. From the swirling chaos of Ginnungagap to the towering branches of Yggdrasil, the story of the Nine Realms is more than just a collection of gods and giants. It's a profound exploration of how order emerges from chaos and how destruction inevitably gives way to rebirth. Think back to the beginning, where fire and ice clashed in the void, giving birth to Ymir and Audhumla. That primal struggle set the stage for everything that followed: the rise of the gods, the shaping of the world from Ymir's body, and the delicate balance between realms like Midgard and Jotunheim. These myths didn't just explain how the world came to be, they reflected the Vikings' understanding of life's unpredictability. Even the gods weren't all powerful. They battled giants, bargained with dwarves, and faced their own looming doom at Ragnarok. Yet within that uncertainty lay a quiet hope. After the ashes of the final battle, the world would renew itself, just as it had in the beginning. What makes these stories so timeless? Perhaps it's their honesty. Unlike myths where good always triumphs, Norse mythology acknowledges that struggle is inevitable, whether you're a god facing a world serpent or a human weathering a storm. But it also offers a defiant sort of optimism. The Vikings didn't cower at the thought of Ragnarok. They met it with axes raised, just as Odin sought wisdom, knowing it couldn't save him from fate. There's a raw beauty in that, a reminder that meaning isn't found in avoiding the end, but in how we face it. And that's the real magic of these tales. They've survived centuries, not because they're simple, but because they're human. They resonate with anyone who's ever felt small under a vast sky, or wondered how to keep going when the world seems chaotic. Whether you're a history buff, a fantasy fan, or just someone who loves a good story, there's something here for you. So tell me, what part of this myth stuck with you the most? Was it the cosmic cow Audhumla licking the first god from the ice, the bittersweet destiny of the sun and moon forever chased by wolves? Or maybe it's the idea that even gods can't escape fate, yet still choose to fight. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear which pieces of this story spoke to you. And if you enjoyed this dive into Norse mythology, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an adventure into the ancient world. Until next time, keep wondering, keep exploring, and remember, even in the darkest of winters, there's always the promise of a new dawn. Farewell, fellow travelers. May your own story be as bold as Odin's and as enduring as Yggdrasil's root.